The Druids taught many things. They were really very knowledgeable. In fact, they were very intimidating to Julius Caesar, who writes about them. And because they believed in reincarnation, their warriors were completely fearless in fighting the Roman Empire. They taught astronomy and astrology. They were very knowledgeable about ley lines and geography, and they set up, of course, their observatories, not only on the coast, but in Woodhenge and Stonehenge. They knew about the physical sciences. They knew enormous amount about trees and herbs and healing remedies because, of course, Britain is so moist and so fertile, so very fertile. They taught cosmic law and morality, mathematics, history, music, much as the Greeks did, like Pythagoras, and connection with the divine, and how to produce things from your own mind, how to produce magic. And magic, of course, is the use of spiritual law beyond that which is known to general mankind. Surprisingly, there were 60 schools with as many as 60,000 students. Astonishing. They say that a full course of study was some 20 years. So let's say you just want to be a healer, maybe you were only there for 7 or 8 years. Let's say you wanted to become a bard, you might be there for 12 years. But if you wanted to become a full-fledged druid, it was about a 20-year course of study. So it was pretty darn intense. The Druids had a very advanced esoteric tree culture because they were so fertile. Unlike the Essenes, who were living out in the desert, there were so many different kinds of trees. They even developed a whole language called Agam that was based on the 22 sacred trees or bushes. I mean, there were a few like mistletoe that were in there. But I love this image because, of course, we're dealing with the yin and the yang. Here's the solar, here's the lunar, here's the energy of day, here's the energy of night. And we see the initiate who's traveling through the path, going through the gateway. Very similar. Here's the summer of the year, here's the winter of the year, it's Father Time, really with angelic wings. But this is like the death, the reaper. We're born, we live, and then we die. And it's the great cycle of life because we really are immortal. They understood and they taught the tree of life as a way of connection with the source itself. And this actually comes down from the Anunnaki gods. Thoth knew this. The Sumerians knew this. But the Egyptians in particular were responsible for conveying this knowledge to humankind. And from them it went to Moses, who of course was a priest in the temples of Heliopolis, very highly regarded for a long time. And then it went from Moses into the Hebrew people. And then, of course, in around 9, 10, 11, 1200 AD, there were a really wonderful group of Hebrew mystics who went into caves and spent many years, fleeing from authorities, but basically tuning in to bring us some of what we know about the Kabbalah today. This was known as the Way of the Return, and there's a lot to be said about this. I'm just going to say a little bit about it. You can see the Christ energy at the middle of the tree here. We start in Malkuth. We move to our emotions here, Yesod. They put it up here in his genitals. And then we go to the heart, and the heart is called Tiphereth, and it was always connected with the sun. And eventually at the top of his head is a hidden sphere of knowledge called Da'at or Da'ath, and it was known as Gnosis. And in order to finally cross through this abyss, if you will, into the higher levels of knowledge, which included the Divine Father and the Divine Mother, in order to do that, we had to die to our old self. Our ego self had to lay itself down, and we were reborn in the worlds as a soul, as a divine, eternal being in the worlds of spirit. Now, of course, we'd always been that all along, except we really just didn't know it. And eventually we attained to the top of the tree, which is the union of the masculine and feminine, which is Keter.